Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Wednesday, March the 17th. We got a big Wednesday slate. We got 10 games to break down, so I do not want to waste too much time. Just before we do get started with the team-by-team breakdown, as always guys, I would appreciate it if you would hit that like button down below. If you are new to the channel here, be sure to click that subscribe button as well. Click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You also get notified every time I do go live. I will once again be live streaming on Thursday afternoon, or Wednesday afternoon, excuse me. I'll be live streaming Wednesday afternoon for tonight's slate, so if you are able to tune in, we'll be live breaking down everything, talking through this slate, answering all your guys' questions. But yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at tonight's games. Start off with the Kings and the Wizards. So right out of the gate, I think this is one of the more appealing games on the slate. Two very fast-paced teams, two teams that don't play much defense. We should see a ton of points scored here. On the Kings side, there are some injuries for the Kings right now. Marvin Bagley, he's going to be out for a few weeks, I believe, with an injury. I think it's a hand injury. And then Hassan Whiteside is questionable for COVID protocols. He's been out for a while. This will be something to monitor because without Bagley, I think Whiteside does have a path to more minutes. He maybe could be viable if he plays, and if he does play, that maybe lowers my interest in a guy like Nemanja Bjelica. But we're going to talk about some potential value from the Kings that I do like in a guy like Bjelica. But right out of the gate, De'Aaron Fox at the top, 9,200, I think, is a very strong play here. Great matchup, fast-paced game. Fox does feel expensive, but he's been so good this year, playing a ton of minutes, getting a ton of usage every night. I have no problems paying this price tag for him in a really good matchup. So I do really like De'Aaron Fox. Love Richaun Holmes as well. Richaun Holmes treated me well last slate. Had a lot of interest in him in a good matchup against Charlotte. Another great matchup here against the Wizards. And without Marvin Bagley, with potentially no Whiteside either, I think Richaun Holmes is going to play, closer to 40 minutes. Like, I expect the minutes to be through the roof. He did get 41 last game after Bagley got hurt. As long as Whiteside remains out, I think we get probably 36, 38 minutes from Holmes. If Whiteside plays, then maybe Holmes only gets like 32, 34 minutes, but I still do expect Holmes to play over 30 minutes. He's been playing so well lately. He's always been a guy that, can stuff the stat sheet when he goes out there. He can get you points and rebounds, can give you a double-double. I love Richaun Holmes here, even at 6,700, even though the price came up a little bit. I think he does look very appealing on the slate. I do like him on Yahoo as well. There are some other guys that are really underpriced on Yahoo that we'll talk about, but for $28 at center, I think Richaun Holmes does look like a very strong center play there. But then, like, Barnes and Hield, I think they're just more secondary options. Halliburton, I think without Bagley, does benefit. I expect Halliburton to probably play over 30 minutes. He did get up to 28 minutes last game. He's kind of been on a minutes restriction lately, but I assume the restriction's pretty much gone now. I think we should get around 30 minutes, if not a few more, for Halliburton. At 5,500, he hasn't really been good lately, but 5,500 is cheap for him if he's going to be getting the minutes now and in a good matchup. So I have some interest in Tyrese Halliburton, but I do really like Nemanja Bjelica as a value play. Now, right now, I'm not exactly sure who's going to start for Marvin Bagley. They could start Halliburton, I guess, and just slide everybody down. They could start like Daquan Jeffries, and we don't really know. But I assume Bjelica is probably the guy that gets into the starting lineup with Bagley out. And Bjelica has always been productive when he does get minutes. He did play 17 minutes last game. That was after, I think Bagley played 16 minutes before he got injured. I'm not sure if Bjelica had played before then. I think he got a few minutes before then. But obviously without Bagley, Bjelica is a big beneficiary. At 3,700, super cheap, in a good matchup. If he is starting for Bagley, I think he is one of the better value plays on this slate. Power forward and center eligible on DK. Richaun Holmes also power forward eligible on DK, which is very appealing. And then Bjelica, super cheap on Yahoo as well. Minimum salary $10. I think looks like a really good value play on both sides today, assuming that he is in the starting lineup. So I think my main interests from the Kings today are definitely De'Aaron Fox, Richaun Holmes, and then Nemanja Bjelica if he does start. I don't mind Hield or Halliburton, but I think they're more secondary plays. Now, looking at the Wizards side, on this Wizards team, there's not a ton that I really like. I think Westbrook and Beal in tournaments make a lot of sense. It's a really good matchup. They both have a ton of upside here. I don't think either one are guys I'm really going to be going out of my way to play today, but I definitely do have interest in both. Not really any interest in anyone else, though, on the Wizards. I think it's just Westbrook and Beal for me. So, moving on to the next game, Toronto and Detroit. Now, on Toronto, they're not as appealing of a team as they kind of have been lately. So, right now, Pascal Siakam, he's currently listed as questionable. He has been cleared to practice, so he does have a chance to return for this game. OG Anunoby is going to remain out. Fred VanVleet, I believe, is actually doubtful, so he's not expected to play, but there is a chance that Pascal Siakam does return. if Siakam plays here, that does lower my interest in guys like Lowry, Powell, Boucher. I really don't have much interest in. So we really got to wait and see with Siakam. If he plays, not much interest in these guys. But if he's still out again, I assume Van Vliet will be out since he's doubtful. Then yeah, Lowry's viable, Powell is viable, Boucher's viable. But there's so many underpriced guys on this slate. There's a lot of just better plays in my opinion. I don't see myself really going too heavy on Toronto today. I'll consider them if Siakam's out, but if Siakam plays, I'm not really going to be looking too much on this Raptors team. I think now that they're starting to get these guys back, they're not as appealing of a team as they were, especially because a lot of these guys have been priced up for when they were out. So looking at the Detroit side, on the Pistons today, I think the one guy that looks appealing is DeLon Wright. 5,800 I think is still a little bit too cheap for DeLon Wright. He's been getting the minutes lately, 31, 32 minutes the last 2 games. I'm pretty sure he subbed out. He subbed out early in the third quarter in that game against the Spurs. He would have played more minutes. I'm not exactly sure why he subbed out early in the third quarter. I don't know if he got injured or what, but he was on pace to play more than 32 minutes last game. I think we probably get 34, 35 minutes from DeLon Wright here. If it is a close game, 5,800. If DeLon Wright's going to be getting over 30 minutes, he is still a little bit too cheap. The matchup, it's not great, but I think Wright's still viable. He's the one guy I have interest in from Detroit. I don't think I'm really going to be looking to much else on this team. Like Dennis Smith Jr., he's currently listed as questionable. Rodney McGruder is also questionable. Wayne Ellington, he's doubtful. So, if we get a scenario where Smith Jr., Ellington, and McGruder are all out, I would assume that probably the biggest beneficiary there would be Saben Lee or Frank Jackson. I mean, they would be pretty short-handed. Obviously, Svi Mikhailuk is no longer on the team. Hamidou Diallo is not ready to play yet. He's still injured. So maybe we could go to Saben Lee for value or Frank Jackson for value, depending on if Ellington is or if McGruder's out. We'll have to wait and see who would start because McGruder did start last game with Ellington out. I'd assume that if McGruder is able to play, that he will start. But if he's out, maybe Saben Lee or Frank Jackson were to get into the starting lineup, so they could become values. But I really don't want too much exposure to this Detroit team. It's not a great matchup. The price tags on all these guys doesn't really stand out outside of I think DeLon Wright is a little bit too cheap. So I think we're going to move on to the next game, Brooklyn and Indiana. So on Brooklyn today, again, it's Kyrie Irving, it's James Harden, and I'm not really playing anyone else on this team. I think Kyrie and Harden, as always, they're guys you can always look to pay up for. On this slate, I don't think either one are going to be guys I really go out of my way to play. I think there are other studs I'd rather get to. There's a lot of guys in the 8K, 9K range that I like today. But yeah, I mean, we've seen the massive upside that Harden has. Can legit go out there and triple-double any night. I mean, last game, triple-double, 65 DraftKings points. I mean, he's just been so good. It's hard not to like Harden at this point. He's basically going to give you 50, 60 points almost every night right now. He's stuffing the stat sheet. He's a great play every night. Just, I don't know if this is a slate where I'm going to be jamming in Harden. If I can get him in, though, I mean, I never mind playing Harden at all. So I do have interest in him. Kyrie, not as much interest in. I think if I'm going to play one of the 2 Brooklyn guards, it's going to be Harden. But yeah, I'm not really looking to anyone else on Brooklyn now. On Indiana, on the Pacers, this is a pretty appealing matchup for these Pacers guys, so I think they do look pretty appealing today. Now, Karis LeVert, he's been, kind of ramping up his minutes. He did get around 30 minutes last game. With him now playing, pretty much close to normal minutes, he's going to take usage away from guys like Brogdon and Sabonis, but the matchup is so good. These guys, their price tags have kind of came down too, that I think Brogdon, Sabonis, and LeVert all do look somewhat appealing. Now, LeVert on DraftKings at close to 7K, I don't know if I'm really going to go to him at that price tag, but I do want to talk about him on Yahoo. So LeVert is still really cheap over there. He's only $20. He's shooting guard, which is usually always a tougher position to fill on Yahoo. If we're going to be getting, around 30 minutes or more from Karis LeVert here, played 27 minutes in his first game, played 29 last game. I think we probably get 31, 32 minutes from LeVert today. It's a revenge game as well if you want to, account that. But really do like Karis LeVert here. Great matchup against Brooklyn. Brooklyn hasn't been playing insanely fast, but they're still not a good defensive team. LeVert is definitely underpriced on Yahoo at $20 if he's going to be playing, 32, 33 minutes. So really like him there. I think he's still viable on DK, but he's kind of priced appropriately at $6,800. Sabonis and Brogdon, though, their prices have come down to where I think they are pretty appealing options. I don't know if either one are cash game plays for me, but tournaments, I do like both guys in tournaments. I think on this slate, they're probably going to be lower owned. We do have a lot of games. We have a lot of options. I don't see Sabonis or Brogdon picking up a ton of ownership today. So I do like those guys in tournaments. I like LeVert in all formats on Yahoo. I just think he's too cheap over there. But probably not going to anyone else on the Pacers. So moving on to the next game, Milwaukee and the Sixers. So on the Bucks today, This team, pretty easy for me. I think it's Giannis at 11K. You know, once again, basically every slate, Giannis is a guy I always have interest in. You know, him and Harden, at this point, they're basically guys you can play every slate. You know, until KD gets back, Harden is playable every slate until, you know, or Giannis basically every night is a guy you can look to. Again, I don't know if this is a slate where I'm going to be forcing these guys in, if they're going to be like the first guys into my build. But depending on, you know, what value opens up as the day goes on, if we get, you know, a lot of value opening up and it's easy to jam in studs, then yeah, I'm definitely going to look to play Giannis. I basically try and play Giannis anytime I can. He's been so good this year, just stuffs the stat sheet every night. Even on his bad nights, you're still getting, you know, 50, 55 fantasy points from Giannis. He doesn't kill you. And we know he's got that 70, 75 point upside. You know, this matchup against the Sixers, I would say is not the best, but without Joel Embiid, with him out, you know, that's going to make this Sixers team a lot worse. I think the matchup is a lot easier for Giannis with, you know, with him or with Embiid off the floor. So I do really like Giannis here. I think Drew Holiday is a little bit too cheap at 6,300. He's someone I am looking to at that price point. Does he stand out as a top option today? No, but 6,300 with Drew getting 32, 33 minutes with him basically back to playing his normal minutes. You know, 6,300 is probably too cheap for Drew. When he's getting over 30 minutes a night, like he should be priced around 7K. I think he is a little bit too cheap. So him and Giannis are the two guys I like from Milwaukee. I don't think I'm going to be looking to anyone else though on this Bucks team outside of Giannis and Drew. So on the Sixers are an appealing team for me. We do know that Joel Embiid is going to be out. So Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, I had a lot of interest in them on Tuesday's slate. You know, it didn't really go well. Harris had a solid game. Ben Simmons, as of now, is not playing well, and he burned me Tuesday night. It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to cash on Tuesday. Simmons, you know, kind of a big reason why, but I'm going right back to him. You know, I think Ben Simmons, just without Joel Embiid, he does get a really nice bump. 8,900, I think, is still a pretty reasonable price tag for him. I think with him not doing well Tuesday night, with him most likely going to, you know, disappoint, that's probably going to keep his ownership somewhat low for this, you know, Wednesday slate. And if we're going to get Ben Simmons at low ownership with no Joel Embiid, I'm all for that. You know, I try and have a short memory when playing DFS. You know, if a guy burns me and he's a really good play the next day, I'm just going to play him again. So I like Ben Simmons still. I think he's someone I'm definitely going to be looking to. I love that you can play him at small forward on DK. That makes him super appealing. On Yahoo, he's a point guard over there, but he's definitely too cheap on Yahoo still. $36 for Ben Simmons. In my opinion, just too cheap here. You know, as long as this game can stay close and we get 36, 38 minutes from Ben Simmons, we've seen the massive upside that he has with Joel Embiid off the floor. So I really do like him. I like Tobias Harris as well. I think both those guys are just going to dominate the usage every night when Embiid's off the floor. So I have interest in them. I don't think I'm going to be going to anyone else, though, on this Sixers team. Like, Tony Bradley was a decent value on Tuesday night. Today, there's better value. I don't think I'm going to be playing Tony Bradley. So on the Sixers, it's Ben Simmons, it's Tobias Harris. Not much interest in anyone else, though. I will mention Dwight Howard on Yahoo just because he's still cheap there. $14. If you need a cheap center, I think Dwight Howard's definitely viable. But, yeah, we can go ahead and move on to the next game, Boston and Cleveland. So for this Boston team, there really isn't a ton I like here. So Tristan Thompson, he was ruled out Tuesday for health and safety protocols, for COVID protocols. He did not play. I assume he's going to be out again, so that does make guys like Tice and Robert Williams a lot more appealing. This is a back-to-back for the Celtics, and I'm pretty sure that Kemba Walker has rested on every back-to-back this year, if I'm not mistaken. So there's a good chance that Kemba Walker does not play. If we do get word that Kemba Walker is out, that is going to make guys like Tatum and Brown, you know, a little bit more appealing. Still, the matchup's not great against Cleveland. You know, Cleveland does play pretty slow. They're not that good of a defensive team, but this game environment is just not one I want to have much exposure to. I will have more interest in these Boston guys if Kemba Walker does rest on the back-to-back. I'll have more interest in Tatum and Brown. You know, even Marcus Smart. I don't know really if his minutes are going to be there. This is a back-to-back obviously for the Celtics, so maybe Marcus Smart rests as well. Like, he's been dealing with an injury. He just came back from an injury. There's a chance that Marcus Smart rests too. So it's kind of a wait and see for me for Boston. Now, if Thompson stays, or if he remains out, then Daniel Tice, he had a huge game on Tuesday night. He played around 30 minutes. He had like 35 or 40 Draftkings points. Like, if Daniel Tice, with Thompson out, is going to start at center and play around 30 minutes, I think at 4,100, he's going to be a very strong value play. So he is definitely someone I will be looking to. I think Robert Williams would probably get a few more minutes as well. He played about 20 minutes on Tuesday night. I'd assume he'd probably get around 20 minutes again, and then when you probably get like 28 minutes from Tice. So both those guys are viable. I think Tice at 4,100, though, does look really appealing today if Thompson remains out. But moving on to the Cavs, pretty easy for me. This Cavs team I just don't have much interest in at all. You know, Larry Nance, he started Tuesday with Kevin Love out. Maybe you could play Larry Nance at 4,700 if he starts again, but There's other value plays I prefer. Cleveland's just, they're not an appealing team here. There's really not much that stands out from the Cavs on a big slate like this. So moving on to the next game, the Warriors. Another team I don't have a ton of interest in today. I will mention Draymond Green. I think it's 6,600. Draymond Green, he burned me last slate. Another guy, I want to have a short memory when I play DFS. So even though Draymond burned me last slate, it's a really good matchup here against Houston. I'm fine going right back to Draymond. He's still too cheap at 6,600. He's the one guy that I think does really stand out from the Warriors today. Now, Houston, they're just in shambles right now. Victor Oladipo, I think we just got word that he's not expected to play on Wednesday, and we already know that John Wall's going to be out. So, this Houston team is probably going to get blown out here. I mean, they've just been getting blown out by everybody lately. But if this game can stay close and we do get full minutes from Draymond, I think he has a ton of upside. So, I like him quite a bit. Steph is always viable. On this slate, though, I don't think I'm really going out of my way to play Steph. I think Draymond's the guy that really stands out from the Warriors. Now on Houston, so Houston's a team that we're going to have to talk about. So Christian Wood, he was doubtful on Tuesday. He did not wind up playing. I assume that he will be out again, but right here it says Stephen Silas did add that there's a chance Wood could make his return Wednesday. We'll have to keep an eye on this. If Christian Wood returns, that's going to muddy some things up a bit, but we already got word that Victor Oladipo, this is a back-to-back for the Rockets. So Victor Oladipo is not expected to play, and we already know that John Wall is out. So I already went into this slate, when I was getting ready to make my video, I was assuming that Oladipo was going to be out, so it's good to get, confirmation there. Now with Oladipo not expected to play, with John Wall already out, Kevin Porter, in my opinion, is probably one of the best plays on the slate. Even at 6,800, with no Oladipo, with no John Wall, I love Kevin Porter on the slate. I love him on Yahoo as well. Clearly one of the best plays over there. He's a small forward. He's too cheap. $23. He's going to be a lock and load for me. We saw this scenario. I believe it was this game against Utah. Both Oladipo and Wall were out that game. Kevin Porter started, played 38 minutes, had 47 DraftKings points. He did have a really good game Tuesday night against Houston. He finished with, let me pull it up real quick, finished with 46 fantasy points in 40 minutes. Kevin Porter just been so good lately. He wasn't great the other night. In that game against Boston, he lost minutes due to blowout, but when this dude gets 38, 40 minutes, which is probably what he's going to play today, I mean, he just has massive upside. The usage, he should dominate the usage without Oladipo, without John Wall. If Christian Wood plays, maybe Kevin Porter takes a little bit of a hit, but I would still assume that Kevin Porter is going to be out there for basically as many minutes as he can handle. So I have a lot of interest in Kevin Porter today. I think he's clearly one of the best plays on the slate, even at 6,800. Jae'Sean Tate as well, especially if Wood remains out. I do like Jae'Sean Tate quite a bit. But Daniel House, he was questionable Tuesday. He did not play. Ben McLemore was questionable Tuesday. He did not play. So Houston had 8 available bodies on Tuesday. Going into this slate, right now, we don't exactly know who's all going to be available. But it seems like for sure we know Jae'Sean Tate, Kevin Porter, KJ Martin, Justin Patton, Sterling Brown, Anthony Lamb, and Mason Jones. We for sure know those 7 guys are playing. Don't know yet on Ben McLemore, don't know yet on Daniel House, and don't know yet on Christian Wood. So they could maybe have 10 bodies today. Don't know if all 3 of those guys are going to play, but maybe they do. We'll have to keep an eye on it. But with Oladipo not expected to play, with John Wall out, I think the clear top play from Houston for me is definitely Kevin Porter. And if Christian Wood plays and he's not limited, Christian Wood would for sure be a viable option too. But if House remains out, I really like KJ Martin again. I think KJ Martin's a good play regardless, but I'd like him even more if House remains out. If Ben McLemore remains out, that just makes me feel even better about a guy like KJ Martin. This Houston team, they should be pretty shorthanded once again. We'll have to wait and see exactly how many players are going to be active here. But I assume they're probably going to have the minimum 8 required. They're probably going to have the minimum 8 active players. I assume one of House or McLemore will probably play. Christian Wood might play. We don't exactly know, but yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Regardless, though, Kevin Porter, love him today. He's clearly one of the top plays on the slate, I think, especially now that we know Oladipo is not expected to play. But we can go ahead and move on to the last 4 games of the night. So San Antonio and Chicago on the Spurs today. We do already know that DeMar DeRozan is going to be out for this game. So that does make me have interest in guys like Dejounte Murray. Derek White burned a ton of people last slate. I think this is one of those scenarios where you need to have a short memory. He was in foul trouble, just did not get the minutes because of the foul trouble. As long as he's not in foul trouble, though, I think we're probably going to get closer to 30 minutes from Derek White. He should be more productive without DeRozan. So I do have interest in Derek White. I like Dejounte Murray too. Jakob Poeltl had a big game last game. Only played 26 minutes, but did have 41 DK points. At 5,900, I think Jakob Poeltl's viable. But I would say my favorite guy from San Antonio is definitely Dejounte Murray. I think he's the guy that I really like and I think has the most upside here in a really good matchup against the Bulls. On this Bulls team, though, this is another team I like again. So Tomas Satoransky, I'm just going to keep playing him on DraftKings until they raise his price. He had another really good game on Tuesday night. He played 26 minutes in that game against Toronto the other day, had 33 DK points, and then on Tuesday night, he played, I can't remember exactly how many minutes. I'm pretty sure he played a good amount. He played 30 minutes Tuesday night against OKC, had 34 fantasy points, just another really good game from Satoransky. I assume he starts once again, and still super cheap on Yahoo, $11, still super cheap on DraftKings, $3,800. I think Satoransky, once again, one of the best value plays on the slate, just too cheap in my opinion. So really, really like him. He's my top play from the Bulls. Zach LaVine, I have some interest in tournaments, though. We saw him have a huge game on Tuesday night. Price is pretty reasonable at $8,800. Definitely have some interest in LaVine. Thad Young at 6K I think is viable. He did start again Tuesday night, but he actually did not start the second half, which was kind of weird. So maybe they move Wendell Carter back into the starting lineup. I don't exactly know. But if Thad Young is starting again, he is for sure viable. But yeah, Satoransky, he's a clear value play today. Assuming he remains in the starting lineup, which seems like it's going to be the case. His price tag is just too low. I mean, with him starting now and playing around 30 minutes a night, he should be priced around 5 to 6K. Like, he's still super, super underpriced. So love him from the Bulls, but I think that does it for that game. Moving on to Miami and Memphis. So on Miami today, there really isn't much I like here. Bam Adebayo did play Tuesday night. He's back for Miami. This is a back-to-back, so maybe they rest Bam here on the back-to-back. But assuming that everyone's good to go, I really don't like much on this Miami team. Everyone's just been priced up for when Bam was out. Even Jimmy Butler at almost 10K, I don't have much interest in. Miami's just not an appealing team in my opinion. Like, just not a team I'm really looking to. On Memphis, it's kind of the same thing. I think John Morant, Joe Val, two guys you could look to in tournaments. I think they are going to be super low owned. But I'm not really looking to anyone else on this Memphis team. Like, this is just not an appealing game. I think this is one I'm definitely just not that interested in. Next one, though, Charlotte and Denver. Really another game I don't have a ton of interest in. On Charlotte, I don't think really anyone stands out as a top option at their price point. Like, Gordon Hayward, fine. Like, he's a fine option at small forward. LaMelo always has upside, but, there's other point guards I'd rather play. Cody Zeller, maybe you could go to at 5K. I feel like he's going to have to be out there to guard, Nikola Jokic, but he's been dealing with foul trouble concerns this year. He's been getting in foul trouble a lot. That's obviously a concern against Jokic. Like, yeah, I just don't really like much from Charlotte here. Devontae Graham, he just hasn't been getting the minutes, so he's hard to trust. I'm not playing any Hornets on this slate. Like, there's no Hornets that stand out as top options in my opinion. And on Denver, not a ton really stands out from Denver either. I think Jokic, in tournaments makes a lot of sense. Is he going to be someone I get to like in cash games? Probably not. Always have interest in Jokic though in GPPs. I do like the matchup a lot against Charlotte. We've seen big games from big men this year facing the Hornets. We saw Rashawn Holmes go off against Charlotte earlier. When they played a couple days ago. So I definitely have interest, in Jokic in tournaments, but I don't think I'm really playing anyone else on this Denver team, or really even considering anyone else. Now, I will mention Will Barton just because he is still pretty cheap. He did have a really big game last game against the Pacers, 39 minutes, 43 DK points. He has been getting big minutes in the starting lineup, so he's viable at 5,400. Does this feel like a slate where I'm really going out of my way to play Will Barton? No. I feel like there's way better options on a big slate like this, but you could target him. Jokic is obviously viable, but I think that does it for Denver. So hitting on the last game of the night, the Clippers and the Mavs. Another one that I don't think I'm really going to have too much interest in. I think Kawhi and PG, as always, are viable. There's other guards, though. Like, give me Ben Simmons, I think, over Kawhi. Give me Kevin Porter for $1,000 less than Paul George. Like, I just don't like too much from the Clippers today. Serge Ibaka is questionable, so that'll be something to monitor. If he's out again, I would like Ivica Zubac as a value center option. Zubac actually played 35 minutes last game, which I think was really surprising. It's the same matchup, so I'd assume that he would get around 30 minutes again if Ibaka's out. He was really productive with 32 DK points in that time. Zubac, has always been productive when he does get minutes. So if Ibaka gets ruled out again, I do actually like Zubac quite a bit from the Clippers. Kawhi's viable, PG is viable, but I think that really does it for the Clippers. I know Marcus Morris had a big game last game. I don't really know if I want to chase that, though. Like, he's not that productive when he plays alongside Kawhi and PG. They said he is going to be in the starting lineup moving forward, so maybe he gets the minutes, but I think his production is going to take a hit now that he's playing alongside Kawhi and PG more. I'm probably not going to chase this Marcus Morris game. I think on a big slate like this, there'll just be better value that opens up. So, yeah, I think If Ibaka gets ruled out, my favorite play from the Clippers is Zubac, and then I think you can definitely target Kawhi and PG in tournaments. But looking at the Mavs here, Mavs team, pretty easy to break down for me. Luka, I have interest in. Porzingis, not much interest in though, but Luka, I definitely do have some interest in. Now again, I think on this slate specifically, I'd probably rather play Harden. I'd rather play Giannis. There's guys in the 9K range that I like for cheaper, but again, like we know the massive upside that Luka has. Now he did kind of struggle when these teams played, or actually he didn't. I thought he had a bad game last time when these teams played, but he did really well actually against the Clippers. 68 Draftkings points in 38 minutes. Kind of surprising just because this is kind of a tougher matchup against Paul George and against Kawhi Leonard, two really, really good defenders. But yeah, I mean, we know like Luka can go out there and put up 70 basically any night he wants to. I feel more confident in guys like James Harden and guys like Giannis. I just feel like, their floor is a little bit higher than Luka's, but I mean, Luka is a tournament play, someone you can always consider. This doesn't feel like a slate though where he's someone I'm really starting my lineups with. So yeah, I think that does it for all 10 games today, guys. I tried to go really as quick as I could. I hope you guys did enjoy the breakdown though. Just before we do end the video, hit that like button, guys. Hit that subscribe button as well. Be sure to click that notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You also get notified every time I do go live. I will once again be live streaming this afternoon around 4 Eastern. So if you're able to tune in to the stream, I can answer all your guys' questions. We can break everything down once again in the live stream. But best of luck tonight, guys. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you did enjoy. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.